Hey,
Nobody.
hey. What are we doing?
We are alone.
We are alone.
Nobody's
It's quiet.
listening. But
Oh, nobody's listening?
yeah, but a couple of weeks ago, after the homecoming, or
Yeah.
during the homecoming, I realized we are not alone. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
that watch this stupid thing
Yeah.
hours later, days later,
Right.
and it's so fun for them.
It's fun for us anyway. We're inside today because it's cold outside in Austin.
It is.
I don't think human beings can survive outside. It's about 51 degrees, and so we decided there's no way.
Yeah. There's no way that.
Yeah.
Not like always.
Sunday leftovers. Here we go. So this is going to be a fun one because I didn't speak last Sunday or the Sunday before.
Yeah, right.
So there's nothing left over per se, but it's an interesting moment. And you mentioned this morning. You texted me early, like, hey, maybe we should do a wrap up on the 2 last weekends for the guest speakers.
Right.
And so for those who weren't here, it was the great Stan Mitchell over the Coho weekend. And Coho weekend, we're still kind of glowing from how amazing that was to have the out of towners in town, and it was such a great time. And there's so many more that weren't able to make the trip. That just makes me wonder about doing that in the future. It's not easy to figure out how to hybridize a congregation and acknowledge the fact that we're both local and not local. But I feel like that was a step in the right direction.
One of the things that impact me the most is that people wonders, okay, could be this actually true, or maybe
these guys are just
people goofing around, and then when they realize, okay, this is very true. I mean, this is so real.
Right.
It's like something complete inside of their heart.
It's they brought
awesome.
such energy. They bring such energy, and it was so much fun to have a full room and all that energy. And so, but as we move into next Sunday and then into Advent, what we do here at ANC is we bring in people that are significant to us. And so Stan is one of those voices.
For sure.
Who just, I don't know if he's like an uncle or a big brother or, a pastor at large, or I don't really know how to describe how he functions, but he brings something very unique to our congregation. And then of course BT Harmon last week, and his story of the Santiago and his story of coming to full dignity within the church, and his Blue Babies Pink and all the things he does. I asked him afterwards when we went out to lunch, I'm like, are you aware of how important you are to us? And he's like, no, not really. I'm like, well, you should probably be aware that we love you and adore you. So anyway, thinking along the lines of who we are as a congregation and who we bring in to speak to us. I don't say it as often as I might, but we're committed to bring people who challenge us and who are safe. But there's a thought that's kicking around in my mind that was more the remains of the retreat we went on after the Coho weekend than of either of those 2 Sundays where those 2 guys spoke. And so here's what I'm thinking about. When we went down to the coast, it was Colby Martin, and it was Stan Mitchell, and it was Trey, and it was Jonathan Bowe from North Carolina, and myself. And so when I get around pastoral people, sharp people, smart people, people who can preach and lead and build things, I have to be honest, I feel somewhat clumsy, not very skilled and gifted. I'm listening to stories of Colby out in California, or even Jonathan's work at Crosspoint, and I'm thinking to myself, man, these guys are so much brighter, they're so much smarter, they're so much more entrepreneurial. And so we had a lot of conversation around that down at Port A, around what's next, what's coming next, who's got some ideas about what the church might look like, not just post-COVID, but sort of as we move into a new era. All of us share in common, the folks of us that were down there on retreat, all of us share in common the fact that we're leading progressive churches and progressive movements, and no one really knows where the future goes from here, or what do we keep and what do we upgrade, or what do we just get rid of. And here's the revelation that I had, and maybe this will bring some comfort to folks. I'm a preacher. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't give birth to great new big innovative ideas. I was never going to be a church planter for that reason. I came in behind a great church planter to do the work that I do. And while it's changing, and we're morphing into a new thing, it's not something that I think that I'm able to do, give birth to a new thing. And so as we talked about this, but Stan is always on the horizon, and Jonathan, my God, Jonathan thinks of things that, y'all, what we do with our O4 Center is going to be innovative. But what Crosspoint did with the Y in Cary, North Carolina, is a whole nother level of a story. Just because Jonathan always has this itch to be recreating something. What have we not thought of? What are the questions we should be asking? What does the community need? What could we build? How could we leverage our influence? And all of these different things. And the same with Colby. Colby's talking about ways of taking pastoring into digital spaces and, into the new assumptions, which is that no one needs to necessarily do church the way we did it. But anyway, all that to say, while my first sense is I feel really unskilled around people like that, my second thought was this. Corporations like Apple or say Dell or any sort of cutting edge technology corporation or anything like that, you've got your sales department, you've got your technical things, you've got development and software and all these things, but there's a special department called R&D, which is short for research and development. And a percentage of every dollar bill that comes through a good company that stays on its feet for more than one product or more than a few years, any good company is going to take a portion of the money that comes through and they're going to send it back into a total waste, which is it looks like a waste because it doesn't affect the bottom line. It's called research and development. I work for a lot of pharmaceutical companies on the side, and some of the R&D departments of pharmaceutical companies are bigger than any other part of the thing. So I started wondering about sort of church and what's next. And I think what's clear to me is that's my gift is not R&D. It's not research and development. But man, everybody needs that department.
Sure.
And so in the world that COVID has gifted us, where for the longest time we were completely on Zoom, and now we can still be both in town and out of town congregations and all of this, why would we not build a voice into the way we lead that has the skills? And they don't have to live here locally. They don't have to be people. Stan doesn't live in Austin, right? But nobody has a clearer voice to speak into our congregation. Same is true with Sam, who now lives in Raleigh, Durham. Same is true for Chris, who lives in outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan. These are people who, because of the decentralized way that we can do faith communities, can be part of that R&D department that are constantly focused on what could this be? What could it look like? What does it need to look like now? I'll tell you, it brought me some peace because it's just always good gospel news to be reminded that you don't have to have every gift that's needed. You don't have to do everything that's needed.
That's the old school way that the pastor should do everything. Like everything. Should be the smartest guy in the room. Should be the guy that nobody is able to say something different.
Right.
That's old school.
So who wants to pastor in a space like that? Like who really signs up for that? Like nobody that I know. So that's what's kicking around in my heart and my head these days, which is it's just a really good realization to remember that teams that do well are teams that build in lots of different talents. And so we listen differently to people. And people who God has gifted to speak into us, we take them seriously. And that comes with a really upside for me, which is that I don't have to do it all. And one of the great leaders of ANC that never gets his due, he just kind of flies under the radar, is Trey himself. I mean, Trey can sit around and listen to a bunch of pastors like us and just by reading his own gut say, that's a terrible idea. And 10 years ago, I would be like, what are you talking about? But now, anyway, I think ANC has a wonderful R&D department. It's just unconventional.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good. It's great that we know our limits.
Yeah.
We don't need to try to reinvent the wheel if someone is already doing that and is willing to share that discoveries with us. That's right. Great. It's an excellent way to create a different kind of community.
Yeah.
It's great. We need each other.
That's right. And I would always agree with that on paper. That always sounds right. But I guess I just have a new sense of how important
it's a new time. It's a new time.
It is a new time.
It's a different kind of cooperation relationship,
collaboration.
Collaboration
Yeah.
is a different kind of
Yeah,
collaboration.
and I think the gift of these last couple of years is we can wholesale just move away from old, exclusively local assumptions about any church. You know, ANC from its very beginning always was more than just local, in the sense that people would listen in from other places and people would pay attention to what we're up to
Right.
and things like that. But this is different. This is a different season where we don't just have a local team. We just don't. We have a team that lives in multiple places and is focused on lots of different things. Jonathan, for example, you know, Jonathan is a leader of a very successful progressive church that's coming back from the way they did inclusion, which cost them, you know, thousands of people when they did this. But Jonathan just has a way of imagining his role as a leader, which is very different than mine. He preaches, I think he told me 18 times a year. I'm like, what do you mean 18 times? He's got a whole team that fills in all the gaps. He's clearly the leader, but he loves to dream and build as much as he loves to preach. Now, that's not me. I love 40 times in the pulpit a year or more. That's just me. But I'm not going to sit in a meeting and be able to conceive of what's the best next technology move for ANC to make in order to capitalize on the moment. That's not going to be me. That's going to be more you. Or that's going to be maybe Akshay and Trey, or maybe Stan and
Right.
you know, and Jonathan and maybe Colby, or, you know, that sort of thing. So just feels, I was telling one of my kids this morning, I just feel settled and reminded that we don't have to
You
do it
know,
all.
for me, it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting because
Yeah.
sometimes people that look or watch our congregation
Right.
from outside,
Mm-hmm.
they could have a different kind of input that we are experiencing this from this point of view.
Right.
We are in the field doing this.
Right.
From outside, this is a different perspective, and it's good to hear both
Yeah.
people from inside and from outside.
Boy,
So that's
boy,
great.
and going back 2 weeks
That's-
for the people who came in from Connecticut and Alabama and Seattle and all the places they came in from, being reminded that even doing this little thing called Sunday Leftovers, I was reminded by Damaris from New Jersey, who just told me, don't stop doing it. We love it. It's so good to be reminded that this on the ground work actually matters. And, you know, is it self-congratulatory to be reminded of that? I don't know. Is it self-congratulatory for me to sit with my staff and
you know,
remind them every
is that
week
bad?
you know,
I like it.
right now,
I like it. I like
yeah.
it. The thing is, try to don't put that in the wrong place in your heart.
Right,
But you know, it's
Mhm.
it's good when someone acknowledges the effort
Yeah.
and or the results or
Yeah.
whatever. Bad thing is when you put that in the wrong place in your heart and you start to believe that you are the last Coca-Cola in the desert.
Right.
Which is translation of it.
That's one of my favorite sayings in Spanish. La última coca en el desierto. Dude, I don't know if anybody understands when we talk like that. But yeah, if you're the last Coke in the desert, that means you are all that and some. But yeah, no, it would be a mistake. It would be a mistake to do that. But you know, honestly, over the years, I don't think my experience at ANC after 10 years now is not that we've ever overestimated our importance. It's that constantly we need to be reminded that there are people who just need a clear, simple, courageous voice around. Right now, for the last few years, our big issue has been inclusion, to be honest. The justice of including all people. And so I think that it's a good time to be here. It's a good time to be part of this. It's a good time to be thinking the questions that are coming at us. And for me, it's a good time to be reminded that my creativity won't solve that next thing. It'll be somebody else on the team. And I'm completely okay with that. Just leave me alone with my lectionary a couple days a week. And let me do what I do. And I think it all works. It all comes together, right? And so yeah, that's what's kicking around in my brain on an icy cold Tuesday morning in Austin. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's new with Amor Original?
Well, with Amor Original, we are facing a different stage.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to move to, at least for the in-person service,
Yeah.
something more relational in
Mhm.
the sense that we need a different space to gather, to eat, to talk, to connect, and then to drag more attention probably from different people. You know, so many years ago I dropped the ball of the evangelism stuff. So
What do you mean drop the ball?
I don't care anymore about trying to convince people that we are the solution they need.
You moved away from that as the way to grow a church, right? Go and tell people that they need to come to your church.
Yeah,
right,
they don't
right.
need me at all.
Yeah.
But we need that people to make a bigger impact in the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
So eventually that will flourish, and it will make that impact here in Austin and different places.
Yeah.
Online, the thing is going awesome. There's new people every week, and now we are doing a series called "The Gospel Is," and my guest speakers they complete the sentence.
Right. It's a stem. It's a sentence stem that they fill in. Yeah.
So and it's great. We were able to listen voices from Colombia, Chile, Argentina, different places, big friends, and it's great. And allow me to reconfigure the work here.
Got it. Well, you're not preaching every Sunday for a few Sundays.
Yeah. Well, I do all the other thing, that editing and uploading and streaming,
Constantly.
but not
Right. Not that one thing.
not that one thing.
And that's an interesting thing, and we can wrap it up with this. That's an interesting tension, because if I'm hearing Stan correctly, in the last couple months, while evangelism, this sort of forced evangelism where we used to go and try to tell people that that they're unhappy, that they're missing something, and that we happen to have what they're missing. While that's ridiculous to me, and it was never something that I ever could get myself to do, there is this other sense, though, in which our story needs to get out there.
Right.
The word needs to get out out there that there are faith spaces that are like ours, that will welcome all, that will celebrate all.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how to hit that balance. But that's something that we talked about at great length down on the coast with these guys last week, which was, how do we get the word out there? Are we getting the word out there? Does the city know? Like, ANC has a way that the word just kind of gets around town. When we became an inclusive congregation, I don't know who told everyone, but people started coming because they were like, we've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
We didn't buy that on Facebook. We didn't buy access to those emails. We didn't put up big signs and flags and things. People just know. But do people really know that there's a courageous little community that's got a foothold in the 04 that really wants to set people free? I wonder if they know as much as we think they do. And so that's a question.
Well, how do you say, constantes?
Constant or faithful?
If we keep constant,
Yeah.
people eventually will know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you experience things like, I was looking for you for so long.
That's the problem. Is that
and
so many people say that.
and you were living just next door.
Yeah.
Something like that. That happened all the time with
I hear
people.
that a lot, and that drives me crazy, because how did they not know? But yet,
It is crazy, but sometimes I don't know. This is a very mundane example. Now I have a Prius.
a Prius. Yeah.
A Prius.
Yeah.
Before that, Prius were totally out of the radar.
Yeah. You never saw them anywhere. Now you see them everywhere, right?
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
It's because I'm driving one.
Right. Right. Yeah.
They were always there, but
you
now
didn't
I'm
see
aware.
them. Right.
I think with churches and people happen pretty much the same. Sometimes people think that they are looking, but when they really start to look for,
Right.
things start to happen.
Yeah.
You are so much into moss, which is that. Anyways,
I haven't mentioned it for 2 weeks. I'm letting you guys off the hook.
your book is on the table.
Yeah. Well, I take it with me everywhere I go. I love it.
The thing is as soon as you scratch that thing, you realize how deep that pain is.
Yeah. It's always been there, but I didn't see it till now. Yeah.
So I think with the gospel and this kind of churches are safe places, and that is something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's something we're thinking about.
Yeah,
All right, man.
awesome.
Just Sunday leftovers on a Tuesday.
I wanted to say indoors.